Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Atutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of you all back to our Ram Katha classes here. So today, this evening, we're going to be discussing from where we left off yesterday, right? That was the last we spoke. So we stopped yesterday at the point where Ram, Lakshman and Sita had gone to the ashram of Sharabanga Rishi, and then eventually when Sharabanga Rishi directed them towards Sutikshna's ashram, they on the way met the sages of Dandakaranya. And Lord Ram took his vows in front of the sages of Dandakaranya that he will annihilate the demons. So that's where we stopped speaking yesterday. So let us continue our narration of Ramayana and absorb some very powerful and very beautiful episodes that we are going to be seeing now in the Aranyakanda of the Ramayana. So by this time, Ram, Lakshman and Sita had spent considerable amount of time in the forest. So almost close to several years. The Dandakaranya forest itself ranges, practically it covers half of India. The stretch of the forest, if you see, all the way from Chitrakoot, way up in the north, till Panchavati here, Nasik. It's a pretty long stretch. And by the time Lord Ram reaches Agastya's ashram, so Sutikshna's ashram is somewhere in the middle of India, you can say. And Agastya's ashram is somewhere close to Nasik, to Panchavati. So which technically means that by the time they reached Agastya's ashram, it was almost 10 years of their exile. 10 years were already completed of their exile. And so by the time they reached Sutikshna's ashram, so we are just narrating episodes one after another, but it doesn't mean it happened in the very next day. There was a long stretch of walk through the forest, which Lord Ram, Lakshman, and Sita had to go through. So Mother Sita had to really reorient her mind for the forest life. Now imagine Mother Sita has been a princess in a very powerful kingdom of Mithila all her life from her childhood, and then eventually she spent 12 years in Ayodhya as the wife of Lord Ram, the prince of Ayodhya. So practically she has lived a life of royalty. And now suddenly she is brought to the forest setting. And in the forest, she has to really adjust the way her mind functions. Now for Ram and Lakshman, they have spent considerable amount of time in Vashishta's ashram in the forest. They have spent a considerable amount of time traveling with Vishwamitra Muni in the forest. So they at least are acclimatized to what forest life means. But for Sita, it was completely new. There was nothing that she had experienced before. And Sita had to it was a pretty steep learning curve. Adjustment is not easy, isn't it? I'm sure in 2 days or 3 days Yatra you understood by now, adjustment is not easy. And that too, when you're used to a certain level of comfort, then adjustment is definitely not easy. See, whenever you come to from a lower grade of lifestyle, you upgrade your lifestyle, that's an easy thing to do. You're driving a cycle to start riding a bike is a little easier. You're riding a bike to get into a car is a little easier. From one level of car to go to a superior level of car is easier. But if you have to come from higher level to lower level, it's not easy. Imagine somebody who's been traveling in Rolls Royce car all his life, you tell that person drive Maruti 800. That person might possibly die, out of shame, right? He'll be thinking, everybody is looking at me only. Actually, nobody is looking at him. But someone the mind tells him, what is this? What a degradation has happened to you, isn't it? So when there is a drop in your lifestyle, it's not easy for the mind to adjust. So imagine what is Sita's lifestyle and what she is right now. She had hundreds of servants in Mithila, so many servants in Ayodhya. And now she has no one, literally. Only one person assisting her, Lakshman, and he's all-rounder. He's only cook, he's only servant, he's only fetching wood, he's only guarding them, everything, only one person. So if she has to call also for help, whom will she call? She has to call the same person again and again. And if he has gone to get something, that time she needs help, she has no one. She has to help herself. Self-service, right? If you look at it from Sita's point of view, it was massive difficulty. And that's why Ram was not wanting to get her only to the forest. He was insisting that she doesn't come. But somehow Sita was so insistent, she pushed it hard. But because it was her decision, it was also easy for her to accept it and adjust her mindset accordingly. When we voluntarily decide to do something, then your mind will cooperate. And somehow the other mind will help you do it. But if somebody forces you to do it, then your mind is not going to cooperate, isn't it? For example, you tell small children, you have to chant. You see how long will they chant? It's only to a certain point. But if they accept it voluntarily, saying, I want to, then nothing can stop them. The mind is ready for it, isn't it? So Sita here, she learned how to survive in the jungle on her own. And there was no tuition classes, jungle survival kit, crash course to survive in the jungle, Before they leave Ayodhya, Sita went and attended crash course. Or there was no online Zoom courses on jungle survival, Absolutely nothing. She had to figure out everything on her own, isn't it? And so for surviving in a natural environment, what you really need the most is observation. To survive in an artificial environment, you need a lot of courses and training and all of that, right? We are all in an artificial environment. for many of you who are having a lot of white hair, to figure out Instagram, you may not be able to do it on your own. You need somebody's help. Because it's not a natural environment, it's an artificial environment, isn't it? For youngsters, to figure out Instagram is very natural, because for them it is natural environment. That's the way they are. So when you are in a natural setting, especially the forest, which is a very natural setting, and the rules of the jungle are very defined rules. Animals follow rules. Human beings don't. You try to drive, in Nasik, every city has their own rules only. You see in flyovers which direction cars are going, can you figure out? You can't figure out. It seems to be a one way, but it actually is a two way, We expect it to be one way, but both directions people are going. So every city has its own systems, so it's not natural at all. But when you go to the jungle, it's a very natural ecosystem. And all the animals, all the entities, living entities that live in the jungle actually follow the system. And that's why when you observe, you understand a lot. And that's why a lot of authors, poets, they go and spend time in nature. Why? When you spend time in nature, you start understanding a rhythm, how nature works, how the mind works, how the world works. And that's exactly what Sita was doing in the jungle. While Ram and Lakshman were busy, collecting fruits and, fetching wood and whatever they were busy in, Sita spent time observing all the animals, birds, entities in the forest. She spent time understanding insects talking to each other. Just by observing and listening, she was trying to understand. She started understanding the jungle ecosystem very well. She understood how to extract honey from the honeycomb without disturbing the bees. Nowadays, if there is any kind of honey extractor from honeycombs, it's always at the cost of some destruction, isn't it? It's a very cruel way of taking out honey. So Sita began to understand how to take from the jungle without disturbing the jungle ecosystem. Sita understood how to extract milk from tigresses. Imagine, even tigresses have milk, but you can't hold that milk in regular vessels. You need a particular quality of vessel to even hold that milk, or to speak of digesting that milk. When you and me try to digest that tiger milk, that's it. Our systems only will collapse, isn't it? Sita learned from bears how to find fruits and roots which are most tastiest. From observing the bears, she found out techniques from which you can remove tuber from the ground, which is very edible and very tasty. I don't know how many of you have heard of this thing called kandamool, right? This is something that was staple food of Ram and Lakshman Sita throughout the forest. If you have tasted kandamool, you'll understand what I'm saying. But if you have not, you can figure it out. You can try to find it. Kandamool is a very special type of tuber which is inside the ground, basically. It doesn't grow above the ground. It grows inside the ground. And there are very specific types of roots and shoots that are really healthy and tasty. Now, things that grow above is very easy to figure out. But things that grow below the ground, and that too in a jungle, it's not easy to figure out. And that's where bears are experts. And Sita just kept observing bears. And they expertly would go and extract these tubers, and Sita followed them. And she understood how to find the best ones. Sita started observing the migratory patterns of birds. And from observing the migratory patterns of birds, she started understanding weather conditions. When the season is going to change. They obviously didn't have calendars, isn't it? So they had to figure out when the season is going to change. And they had to figure out direction of wind and so many things. So by observing the swimming patterns of fishes, by observing the flying patterns of birds, she began to understand so many of these jungle ecosystems. And Ram, Lakshman and Sita, throughout the 14 years of their exile, they consciously avoided human settlement. Wherever humans were congregating together and staying together, they consciously avoided it. Why did they consciously avoid it? Because Ram was Maryada Purushottam. He follows rules, literally. He understands he doesn't just follow the rules literally, he understands the spirit behind the rules. What is the spirit behind the rule that was given to him? You have to go to the forest and stay for 14 years in the forest, right? This is vanavas. Typically, today, right now where we are, Nasik, was supposed to be a one. Are we doing vanavas? What do you think? We are living in posh hotels, isn't it? This is far from vanavas. So Ram could have easily done this, isn't it? Dandakaranya district. Postal code Dandakaranya, it says. And he could have chosen a place which was technically under Dandakaranya, but he could have had a comfortable 14 years. Isn't it? So that's called following not following the spirit of the law, the spirit of the rule. So Lord Ram not only followed the technicality, but he also understood the spirit. And the most amazing thing is that nobody ever monitored him. 14 years, Kaikai didn't send people to spy on Sita, Ram, Lakshman. No, Bharat didn't send anybody to spy on Sita, Ram, Lakshman, where they are staying exactly. So technically, nobody will ever come to know whether they actually stayed, in a forest or didn't stay in a forest. They could have easily settled down in one particular, city, and nobody would ever know. But Ram, Lakshman and Sita, all three of them, they understood that the spirit is more important. So many of us in our own lives, there are certain rules and certain, things that we think we should be doing. But then we forget the spirit of it. And we look at the technicalities of it, right? But the spirit is very important, which Ram really followed. So Sita learned so many of these things from nature. And the most amazing thing is that day Kshatriya Prabhu was talking about the footprints of Ram that Shurpanakha saw. Lakshman and Sita, throughout the 14 years of their travel, they were conscious of the footprints of Ram. And both of them didn't ever stamp on the footprints of Ram. Now imagine, for 14 years, consciously Sita and Lakshman avoided putting their foot on Lord Ram's footprint. Why? Because they worshipped him. They really considered him to be worshipable. And when we say they didn't put their foot on the footprint, what does it really represent? Of course, the footprint, from our point of view, it's a very holy thing, isn't it? Whenever the Supreme Lord walks, we have gone to so many holy places, and we always see these, footprints of the Lord, right? Vishnupad or Krishna's footprints. You will find so many footprints of the Lord in different places. Now, the footprints represent multiple things. On one level, the footprints represent the Lord Himself. There's no difference between the footprint of the Lord and the Lord. The Paduka that Bharat carried is technically the footprint of the Lord only, isn't it? So Bharat didn't find any difference between the footprint of the Lord, the footwear of the Lord and the Lord. For them, it's all the same. And there's one disciple of Ramanujacharya. He was traveling from one place to another, and he had to pack the Guru's, things. And while packing the Guru's, paraphernalia, he had one box in which he had to put everything. He put the deities of the spiritual master, whom Ramanujacharya was worshipping. And in the same box, he put the footwear of Ramanujacharya also. So Ramanujacharya said, "What are you doing? How can you put my footwear in the same box where the deities are there?" And this disciple of Ramanujacharya said, "For me, both are equally worshipable. I worship the Supreme Lord, but I also worship your footwear as much as I worship the Lord." And Ramanujacharya, and Govinda, he told Ramanujacharya, "For you, your Lord is worshipable. But for me, my Lord is the footwear." Of course, Ramanacharya didn't say anything after that. He didn't have an argument. Technically, he was right. So that is the value the Vaishnava Acharyas give to the footwear of not just the Supreme Lord, but even of the spiritual master. And so Sita kept the footprints of Ram on her left side, and she walked a little on the right, so that she can constantly keep observing the footprint of Lord Ram and also follow the footsteps, but not stamp on it. If you're walking in a jungle, if you've ever gone on treks, you'll understand the person who goes right in the front, he suffers the most. Maximum thorns poke him only. All the trees hit him only. There's a lot of endurance that first person has to go through. The second person's life is a little more comfortable, because half the thorns are already gone. The third person's life is most comfortable, because already two people have suffered, and then the third person is coming. But the interesting thing is that this doesn't work in Ramayana. This logic doesn't work in Ramayana. In Ramayana, everyone suffers. Sita is walking behind Ram, but she is walking on the left side. So she is technically having a new set of thorns that she has to face. Lakshman, he walks towards the left of Sita. That means even he has to face a new set of thorns. Lakshman doesn't stamp on the footprint of Sita and the footprint of Ram. So that he was so conscious, basically. For him, both of them are worshipable. And that was the spirit of the three of them. See, in the Ramayana, the love and the respect that they have for their superiors is at another level. Lakshman, the way he worships Sita, the way he worships Ram, it's almost at the level of God, though he's saying brother. And the way Sita worships Ram is at the level of God, literally. Relationships are best when the respect is at that level. There's like a very high level of respect for one another. And when there is that kind of respect for one another, it is much easier to speak respectfully, to deal with one another respectfully, and to love respectfully. And that's what the Ramayana teaches us. So Sita teaches us a very important element at this point, the element of always wanting to learn and upgrade oneself. A lot of us, we don't learn and upgrade ourselves on a daily basis. For most of us, our connection with ISKCON has introduced us back to learning, right? Before we started connecting with ISKCON, how much would we learn on a regular basis? Hardly anything, isn't it? But after we come to ISKCON, and once we start hearing and reading, we really learn so much. In the initial few years of coming to Krishna consciousness, we are very excited about learning and reading and hearing because it's all new stuff. After a few years, we become very complacent about it because we think we know everything. Beyond a certain point, we say, Arey, I heard this, I know this. We start thinking that we know everything. But the fact is that there is no limit to how much you can learn. Every single time you hear a lecture, even if somebody is narrating the same pastime that you already know, there will be an element which is an insight that you never know, that you never thought of. And that even if in one lecture of half an hour, 1 hour, if you can get even one new insight into your life, one new insight you can learn, it is a progress in your spiritual journey. It is a progress in your journey of life overall. I spend a lot of time with people these days, and I understand that people don't mind spending on things. Nobody minds spending on buying gadgets. Nobody minds spending on buying gold and silver, because they think it's an investment. Nobody minds buying property. Nobody minds buying cars and vehicles, because we all think that these are all necessary things for our growth, right? So if we have all of these things, it seems we're making some progress, which is tangibly visible. But I find very little people wanting to invest in their intellectual growth, invest in their emotional growth, invest in their spiritual growth. We don't want to invest. Why we don't want to invest? Because somewhere it is not visible. It's not visible to others at least, right? Will anybody know if you have heard one class or 100 classes, will anybody know the difference? Externally, nobody will know, isn't it? But you will know. You will understand the difference. And how others will understand the difference? They will understand the difference in your behavior, in your dealings, especially the subtle things. So, the more conscious you become, the more subtler you become, the more you have actually invested in hearing and reading. And that is the effect. And if you look at any successful person in this world, I'm not even talking about devotees, I'm talking about even mundane people. Anyone who is successful in any way, they always read books. They always invest time in reading and hearing good people. Why? Because it is inherently connected. And that's why Mother Sita investing time in upgrading herself is a very beautiful thing in the Ramayana. The amount of things that she learned in those 14 years, even Ram for that matter, sitting under the feet of the sages and learning from them. Why does Ram have to learn? He's God, he knows everything. But yet he's teaching us a standard by which we should live our life. He's teaching us a standard by which as human beings we should spend our time. Just observe what Sita, Rama, Lakshman do in these 14 years, you will actually understand what to do in life when you don't have gadgets. What to do in life beyond your regular work. Otherwise, 14 years spending is not a joke, isn't it? Imagine, they didn't have a kingdom, they didn't have any regular work as such, they didn't have TV or phones, and yet they spent 14 years in the forest. So they invested in all those things that were very important for them. And that's what we all need to do. Right? We all need to learn from them and invest ourselves in those aspects. One day, Sita found Ram alone, and Lakshman was not with him. And Sita thought this is a very apt time to begin a conversation. So there is something that has been haunting her, disturbing her for many days. And Sita was waiting for the right opportunity to bring it up. So she very carefully words what she's going to say. So she says, as one's maturity increases, one's sensitivity also is supposed to increase. So she says, the venom of a small scorpion is more poisonous than the venom of a big scorpion. Because when the scorpion is small, it doesn't know how much to bite. It bites a lot. So it injects more venom into the person. When the scorpion becomes big, they understand how much is enough to bite and to dissuade their prey or whoever is attacking them. It's very interesting, isn't it? When the scorpion becomes bigger, it only bites a little bit and that's enough to cause you pain. But the small scorpion doesn't understand, only it keeps biting and biting and biting, thinking that I have to bite more, So when you're small, that means you're immature. So in your dealings, you act immature, you act insensitive. But as you become bigger and bigger and bigger, you act more mature and you become more sensitive in your dealings. And Sita, so she's telling Lord Ram, so she immediately understands that she's going to give a feedback to Lord Ram. She's going to discuss something that is very sensitive. So she uses words that are very apt at that point. The interesting thing about most of us is that when we speak words, we don't weigh the impact of our words on others. Sometimes we act like these small scorpions, right? We speak words that really hurt, and we don't even understand how much the person is hurting by the words that we choose to speak. And therefore, some people should just keep their mouth shut. Best for them, best for others also, Because the moment they open their mouth, they hurt somebody, isn't it? So Sita, she tells Lord Ram that, my dear Ram, a Kshatriya is not supposed to develop animosity without a reason. So if we are Kshatriyas, we are supposed to develop animosity only when there is an apt reason somebody has harmed us. So in self-defense, we can attack the person. But somebody tries to steal from us, then we can, harm the person, or we can, in an act of self-defense, we can do whatever is needed. So Sita says, a few days back, when you met the sages of Dandakaranya, you took an oath in front of them that you will annihilate the demons. So she says, why have we come here in the forest? Aren't we supposed to live as vanaprasthas? Aren't we supposed to live as ascetics in the forest? So the word vanaprastha is a very interesting word. Technically, it's supposed to be a retired life, right? But actually the word vanaprastha means that you slowly disengage from this world. You slowly start withdrawing. So while you are in grahastha life, there is a lot of engagement with the world, right? There's a lot of engagement with people. Whether you want it or no, you have to attend some marriage. Everyone who goes to attend marriages, they come back really disturbed only, Because what happens in those social settings is very disturbing, right? So any social setting for that matter, you go to an office, you'll come back disturbed only. You go to, a gym, something will happen over there, you'll come back disturbed only. Whatever you go to a bank, you'll come back disturbed only. So anytime you go and engage in a social setting, you come back disturbed. What to speak of traveling in a local train, come back highly disturbed, basically. So whenever you're going in a social setting with human beings and you come back disturbed. Vanaprastha is a stage where you stop engaging or you start disengaging. You don't have to go for social obligations at Vanaprastha stage. You're slowly withdrawing from engagement in this world. Now 50, 60 years you've been engaging. Now it's the time to wind up and slowly start disengaging. Go selectively for events. Go selectively where you absolutely need to go. That's where you have to go. So you have to become very careful of how much or where you expend your energy. So Sita is telling Ram, we are supposed to be living life of vanaprasthas. Why are you engaging? So she's saying we are supposed to, we're supposed to sacrifice control and depend on higher powers. Vanaprastha is a stage where you stop being a controller. Throughout our life, we want to be controllers. At some point, you have to stop being controllers. And it's so difficult, isn't it? Especially for somebody who has been a very powerful controller all life long. At a later point, it becomes so difficult to lose control, isn't it? To not want control. I remember many years back, and I don't know, I've told this story many times. I very often remember this. When I just joined the ashram, and there's a very instructive story for me, personally. So I remember this very often. So when I just joined the ashram, I was staying in Bangalore and then Goa, and then after that I moved to Mumbai. I joined a brahmacharya ashram there. And 1 year, so that particular year, the year that I joined, I went back to Goa for Janmashtami. And, Govinda Prabhu, one of our very senior devotees from Radha Gopinath temple, he was supposed to be the speaker for the Janmashtami event that year. And Govinda Prabhu took me along with him to, just to be with him. So I went to Goa with him. And every year on Janmashtami, I used to be in Goa. So I lived in Bangalore for a couple of years. But every time for Janmashtami, for a couple of days, I would come and spend time in Goa and I would do service. And, in those days, this was like in 2006, throughout Goa, we practically had 50, 60 devotees across Goa, spread across Goa. So, and we all would come together and celebrate Janmashtami together, basically. So, the moment I reached Goa, I dropped my bags and I was running to go and do my services. And in those days, I used to be in charge for a lot of things in the Janmashtami festival, At least I thought so. I thought I was very responsible, and without me, Janmashtami can't function. Going through saw me running. I dropped my bag. I was running to. We reached on the day of Janmashtami. Evening was supposed to be the program. So going through asked me, "Where are you going?" I said, "Prabhu, Janmashtami is there in the evening. I have to go and arrange everything. I have to go and organize everything." Going through said, "Just sit here. You don't need to go anywhere." I said, "Prabhu, what are you saying? How can Janmashtami happen without me? Every year I've been going, and the festival, I organize everything. I have to tell this seva." Going through gave me one book, Nectar of Instruction. And he told me, by heart all the shlokas in this book. Sit here. I was going mad. I was saying, "What are you saying, Prabhu? Such a big event. We have come all the way for this. You're telling me to read shloka. I can read shloka in temple also." He said, "No, sit here. And by the time we leave for Janmashtami, I want you to tell me all the shlokas that you have memorized." And I was sitting there with that Nectar of Instruction book, studying Pacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Upastha Vegam. And inside I was irritated. I was like, "Why is Prabhuji doing this to me? And why is he not allowing me to go and do my service?" I was really irritated. Of course, I managed to learn a few slokas. And then we went in the night for the Janmashtami program. I was shocked. Everything was perfectly organized without me. Absolutely. All same arrangements, everything same. Everybody had their services, everybody was happy. First class Janmashtami event happened. I didn't do anything that year. That year I understood what is the meaning of disengagement. The world will run without us. In fact, the world will run in spite of us. We are the ones who are thinking that without us nothing will happen. So at some point in our life, of course, this is true for every aspect of life. So from that point, what I have been trying to do consciously is that every year, whenever I do any kind of services, I try to see where I can withdraw and somebody else can do that in my place. So I move ahead and allow somebody else to come and take over what I was doing from the past. So all life long, if you keep doing the same thing, then there's nobody who's going to be able to do what we are doing, isn't it? We are kind of preventing others from getting the opportunity. So Sita is telling Lord Ram here, we have come to the forest because we want to sacrifice control. Vanaprastha, living in the forest, simply means that you sacrifice control. And you're depending on some higher powers. We all have to learn that. So Sita is telling Lord Ram, why are you holding the bow in your hand? Do you really want that kind of control even now when we are in the forest? Whom are you controlling? Animals don't need to be controlled. You don't have a praja over here. You don't have a kingdom over here. Why are you holding that bow in your hand? And why are you taking a vow to kill someone that you don't even know? Why are you taking a vow to kill someone that has not even harmed you? That has not even done anything to you? And then Sita tells a story to Lord Ram about this. She tells, long back there was a sage who did great tapasya. And Indra became very insecure of this sage and his power of tapasya. And Indra felt this sage is going to take over my role. So Indra, he came to meet the sage in the forest and he brought with him a sword. And Indra gave the sword to the sage and told him, "See, I want to answer nature's call. I need to do something. I'll come back in some time. Can you just hold this sword for me? It's a very powerful sword. It's a divine sword. I can't keep it on the ground." The sage said, "Fine. You go and do what you want to do. Come back. I'll hold it." Indra went away, never came back. So the sage was holding the sword for a long period of time and he was thinking, what do I do with this sword? And he decided, let me just see how this sword works. There was a log of wood over there. He hit it. And the log of wood split into two parts. And the sage was amazed the kind of power that he's carrying in his hand. He went outside and he hit a tree. And the tree got cut into two parts. The sage became really intoxicated now. He saw an elephant was roaming around. He went and hit the elephant. Elephant died. He saw a tiger. He went and attacked the tiger. The tiger also died. So now the sage was convinced that I am invincible. And eventually that sage became a dacoit, looting people. And And Sita tells Ram this story and tells, if you are also going to carry that bow all over the place, you will also become like that sage. Imagine, Sita is telling Ram this. You are going to carry that bow, you have to use that bow. What's the point in carrying a bow? I mean, there are so many people who have licensed guns nowadays. Right? At some point they will think, yeah, so many years I have this gun, I am not using it only. At some point that thought will come in the mind, right? I have kept it for self-defense, but I am not doing anything with it. And every time you see the gun, someday you will feel, let me try it once, see what happens, right? That's what is happening in the world, isn't it? There are so many crazy people who get some crazy thoughts. You know, they are high on drugs or God knows what they are, and they get these thoughts, and the weapon is available with them. So Sita is telling him this. Imagine. And Sita, when she gives this feedback to Lord Ram, she tells him, either you can live a life of dependence or live a life of control. Either abandon the life of an ascetic and return to Ayodhya and reclaim your life, or abandon the bow and live in the forest and live a honest life of dependence on God. So he said, it is for King Bharat to deal with the crisis of the sages. For Bharat, all the sages are his subjects. We are no king. The sages are not our subjects. Why are we trying to take on some responsibility which we are not even responsible for? After Sita tells this to Ram, then she waits. She keeps quiet. She doesn't say anything beyond that. Lord Ram looks at Mother Sita and he smiles. Giving a feedback is not easy. Taking a feedback is even more difficult. Isn't it? If anybody gives us feedback, that's it. That person becomes our enemy. Isn't it? We all hate feedbacks. Hate feedbacks. I'm not saying you can't give feedback to the organizers for this yatra. If you have any issues, please go ahead and give it. Whatever issue you have, you can give feedback, no problem. But I'm just saying in general, people don't like feedbacks. It's very difficult for the ego. When somebody tells you you're wrong, it's not easy. And especially if you are a perfect person, you have not made any mistake, then feedback is even more difficult. Isn't it? Imagine giving feedback to Lord Ram. He is the most perfect person in the world. And yet, Sita is giving feedback to Ram. So all the husbands here who are getting feedback from their wives, if Ram gets feedback, what about you? Yes. Bound to happen only you will get, isn't it? If Ram has to quietly hear feedback, then please get used to it. But the interesting thing is that Sita is giving the feedback when nobody's there. It's just their private conversation, right? And she's also giving a feedback in a way that is sensitive. She's not hurting Ram, but she is wanting to get clear on what the whole thing is. And after giving the feedback, she is quiet. She's waiting to hear from him. When you give feedback, don't keep on giving feedback. Stop at some point. Hear the other person also say something, If the other person doesn't get a chance to say only anything, that's like not right, isn't it? So you may give feedback which you think is valid, but when the other person says, you might realize your feedback is not valid only. It might be a wrong observation, isn't it? That's what a conversation is. That's what dialogues are. And that's what a relationship is all about. So Sita gives the feedback and then stops. And then Ram goes on explaining to her his point of view, which is so beautiful. Ram tells Mother Sita, being a Kshatriya is not a choice. It's a responsibility. He tells her, Kshatriya is not born to choose his duty, but he is born to fulfill his responsibility. And wherever the Kshatriya is, whether he's in the forest, whether he's in the kingdom, whether he's in the city, whether he's in the jungle, whether he's with a position or is without a position, a Kshatriya lives his life to fulfill certain responsibilities. And that is the gift of, so what is the speciality of a Kshatriya? The speciality of a Kshatriya is courage and competence. This is the speciality of a Kshatriya. Not everyone is born with it, right? Somebody who is a Brahmana, he is not born with courage. He might be born with intelligence, but he is not born with courage. Somebody who is a Kshatriya is born with courage. That's the speciality of a Kshatriya. You ask the people that are in the army protecting the borders of the country, are you scared of death? They will look straight at you and they'll say no. And don't think they are wrong. Don't think they're lying. They are not lying. They're actually speaking the truth. They don't get scared of death. Why? That's a Kshatriya blood, right? You send a Brahmana on the border, that's it. He will try to give a lecture to the other person why you should not fight, By that time, the whole kill him and go away, Kshatriyas, I was in Amritsar a few days back, and this whole place is filled with Kshatriyas, They were selling these knives, tripans in the shops over there. I have never seen so many shops sell knives like that openly, And all of them are allowed to carry those tripans because they have a vow. Just like, doctors have this, hypocritical vow. They have a vow that they are supposed to use that only for protection of weak people. So now, if they have those weapons, it is good for society. Because such people having those weapons, it will actually help society in so many ways. Bad elements, they will always take advantage, isn't it? New Vrindavan, our temple in New Vrindavan, attacked by a group of dacoits with guns. And some of our devotees got injured over there. Mayapur in West Bengal in the 70s, they were attacked by a group of people. And some of our devotees didn't have any weapons at all at that point in time. They are absolutely naive about this whole thing. And when a huge group of people attacked them, they were helpless. So many devotees got injured, so many of them died literally, and so much of chaos happened. And that's when we realized that this is not a joke. We need some Kshatriyas who are trained in weapons. And then New Vrindavan actually introduced the idea of getting weapons. Mayapur, we had to get guards with weapons, right? And that's what the whole idea of what Lord Ram is trying to convey over here is. So he's saying a Kshatriya lives to fulfill the burden of responsibility because he has this gift of courage with him. So Ram tells Sita, Sita, I was not sent to the forest to become a renunciant. My father and mother only expected me to stay in the forest for 14 years. And they never explicitly told me that you have to give up Kshatriya Dharma. They never explicitly told me that you have to become a sadhu. They never told me that. They only told me to wear clothes of a sadhu. Valkal Vastra. That's what is typically worn in the forest. And why that kind of clothes is worn in the forest? Because that's the clothes that work in that environment, in the forest environment, right? It doesn't attract too much attention. It merges with the forest environment, right? It's very apt, suited for the forest life. That's why I was told to wear those type of clothes. So Ram tells Mother Sita, no one has asked me to stop practicing Kshatriya Dharma. And the Dharma of Kshatriya is to protect the weak. And he says, I consider myself to be actively assisting Bharat in handling those areas where he is not personally going. So if you ask me, what am I doing? Why did I take a vow over there? I am doing it on behalf of Bharat. It's Bharat's kingdom. And I am supposed to assist him in executing his duties. And Sita says, Ram tells Sita, who doesn't matter to a king? So Sita is telling Ram that why are we interfering in a matter that is not of any concern to us, right? So Ram is telling, who doesn't matter to a king? Everybody matters to a king, isn't it? So if somebody, the king can't say, "Arey, that fellow is doing bad thing, let him do. He's not disturbing my life." No. Whoever does whatever they do, the king is responsible. The government is responsible for it. And so Lord Ram says that a leader who considers only his immediate family and acquaintances, as those who matter to him, he's not a leader at all. A true leader is somebody who is always waiting for an opportunity to serve. And so leadership is something that is bestowed. So when somebody is dependent on you, when somebody is taking shelter of you, somebody says, "I need your help." If a leader says, I don't want to help you, so that person is not a good leader, basically. So he says a leader does not choose to become a leader. The followers follow him and thereby make him a leader. So the sages, they have chosen to depend on me. Because they have chosen to depend on me, it is my duty to, take care of them, reciprocate to them. And Ram tells Sita, "Sita, please remember this. I can never give up any opportunity to use my abilities and skills to protect the weak and those who are dependent on me. And in the process, if I have to lose everything that is precious to me, I'm ready to lose. So even if I have to lose everything that is precious to me in the process of protecting those who are dependent on me, I don't mind doing it." And when Ram said that, the trees started showering flowers on Lord Ram. And the wind actually cooled the temperature a little bit. The birds began to sing. And the animals, all of them began to wag their tails. And Lakshman became so proud of his brother. And Sita, she began to smile. Because now Sita understood that this is the heart of Lord Ram. So, Lord Ram and Sita, they're having these beautiful conversations is something that is very unique in the Ramayana. Normally, Sita is presented as somebody who is weak, right? But this side of Sita is not presented much in the Ramayana. This side of Sita, where Sita is giving straight feedbacks to Ram, is not presented in the Ramayana much. But this is the side of Sita that is a very important side of Sita, and which is why Janak Maharaj called her Dharmacharini. So when he was handing over Sita to Ram, he said that she is Dharmacharini Tava, which means she will follow you as long as you are following the path of Dharma. But the moment you deviate from the path of Dharma, she will correct you. And here is one of those examples where she is trying to correct Ram when she thinks he is not following Dharma. So Lord Ram and Sita, after having this beautiful conversation, they reconcile the differences. And there is no ego involved here. Sita is saying, no, you will see someday what I said is right. There's no ego involved here. She explained her point of view, Ram explained his point of view, and they understood each other. It's settled. They didn't carry it. So for a lot of us, when we give an opinion or we give a feedback, along with that feedback, we also attach our ego. My opinion, it has to be the right opinion. It has to be right. But we're not open to understanding maybe what I'm saying may also be wrong. May not be the right way of looking at it, isn't it? And that's what makes this conversation very, very beautiful. And of course, and Ram also didn't speak in a way to put her down. What do you know about Kshatriya Dharma? What do you know about codes of conduct? He also accepted her opinion. He heard her out nicely, and he answered her very respectfully in that way. And that's the beauty of this whole conversation. Lord Ram, Lakshman and Sita, from this point, continue further till they reach the ashram of Sutikshna Rishi. Sutikshna Rishi is a very interesting personality. Sharabanga Rishi has personally referred Lord Ram to him. And Sutikshna, the best part of Sutikshna is that he is constantly meditating on his guru, Agastya Rishi. So when Lord Ram comes to Sutikshna, the only thing Sutikshna tells Ram, he tells Ram, you must meet Agastya Rishi. So Lord Ram, from Sharabanga's ashram through sages Dandakaranya, they have come to Sutikshna. Sutikshna is saying, let's go to Agastya Rishi, I will take you myself. And Sutikshna himself takes Ram to Agastya Rishi, which is again further south. And while they are coming towards Agastya Rishi's ashram, Sutikshna tells so many stories of Agastya Rishi to Lord Ram. Sutikshna tells, it's a very interesting thing. Especially, this is one such example in the scriptures where a disciple is glorifying his guru in front of God. It's very interesting, right? Ram is God, and Sutikshna is a disciple of Agastya Rishi, and here is Agastya Rishi somewhere else only, but throughout the entire journey, Sutikshna is glorifying his guru in front of Ram. And this is a very important, reference. How in front of God you can even glorify your spiritual master. And the most amazing thing is that Ram loves it. Everything Sutikshna is talking about Agastya Rishi, it makes Ram more eager to meet Agastya Rishi. And this is the beauty of these conversations, right? So there's a lot of, you can learn a lot of Vaishnava behavior, you can learn a lot of etiquettes, you can learn a lot of subtle things through these discussions. Sutikshna could have chosen to speak anything to Lord Ram. He could have chosen to speak about himself. But he felt the one thing that I have inside me, which is worthy of sharing with God, is about Agastya Rishi. Now imagine you have a chat with God, and you have the facility to talk anything with God for 1 hour. What would you speak? Think about it, Just imagine you had a free conversation with God for 1 hour. What would you choose to discuss with God? And if Krishna comes and sits in front of you, Ram comes and sits in front of you and says, "What's bolo?" What would you say? Would you talk about your home problems, how your maid is disturbing you, how your kids are not behaving well, Would you talk about your health issues? I'm having bile, I'm having acidity problems, Are these the conversations that you will have with God? What would you discuss with God? Sutikshna is setting us a beautiful standard. When you don't have anything worthy of in your own life to discuss with God, start talking about some great sage. Start talking about your spiritual master. Start talking about those personalities who have really done worthy things. And that's a beautiful conversation to have with God. So Sutikshna introduces Agastya Rishi to Lord Ram by telling him, Agastya Rishi is a unique sage. And I'm just going to give you a little description. Sutikshna is going to give a very unique description of Agastya Rishi. He tells, Agastya is a short sage. He is round. He is bald. Have you heard of, ancient sages who are bald, And he loves cooking. Interesting, right? He's staying in the forest, but he loves cooking. And more than loving cooking, he loves eating. Here is a very interesting example of a sage who loves eating. When I initially came into the Krishna conscious movement, Hare Krishna movement, I read one very interesting book. I don't know how many of you have heard of it also. It's called Radha Damodar Vilas. It's a very interesting book. And of course, there are many beautiful books, but in this book, I came across a very interesting section which inspired me in a strange way. I don't even know why I got so inspired. That section, I would read it many, many times. And you know what it was? This book was about a bus party in ISKCON, headed by Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Vishnujan Maharaj in the 1970s. They were one of the initial senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And these two devotees, they headed a bus party filled with, 30, 40 devotees traveling around North America distributing books. And all day long, they would just be traveling in different cities in North America and distributing books. So in one such chapter in this book, they happened to visit a temple called in Gainesville. It's an ISKCON center in Gainesville. For those who have visited Gainesville ISKCON temple, they'll know it is a historic temple for our movement for many reasons. And one of the reasons is that that temple has the longest standing Food for Life program in the history of ISKCON. For more than 50 plus years now, every single day, they've been distributing lakhs of plates of prasad. So that temple is known as, it's supposed to be Gainesville. They call it Gheville. Filled with prasad. It's like, I don't know, somehow that temple is filled with a lot of prasad. So this bus party happened to come to this place. This bus party was filled with youngsters, young American boys and boys who were, in the Brahmacharya ashram, just peak of their youth, energetic, all day distributing books and all. So when this bus party came over here, the temple president of that temple, of Gainesville temple, invited all of them for a feast. And he told them that I challenge y'all that let's see who eats the most. And he said, we'll keep cooking. Our cooks don't get tired of cooking. Let's see how much you can eat. And the description of the items that were made in that prasad, oh my God, if you read that, you'll go mad. How so many items, all different varieties of dishes coming one after another. And all these brahmacharis sitting in line to eat prasad. And one brahmachari, he goes and starts with sweet rice. Starts prasad with sweet rice. And you know what he does? He doesn't take a glass of sweet rice. He takes the bucket only straight. Full bucket he's drinking sweet rice. And there's another brahmachari who eats like stack of chapatis. 20, 30, 40 chapatis he's eating. One guy eating. And it's a hilarious description. And it's not a made-up story, okay? It's a real story of really, and for those of you who don't believe it, you must go to devotee's house with brahmacharis to eat prasad. And that's what you'll understand. I have gone several times with our brahmacharis. One time, I saw the host beg one brahmachari, please stop drinking mango milkshake. We don't have more. We have to serve everybody. He's saying, please stop. So sometimes it's a little dangerous when sadhus go for prasad, So Agastya Rishi's description is like that in the Ramayana. Absolutely loves cooking and loves eating. And whatever he cooks, Sudikshna is telling Lord Ram, anything that he cooks and people eat what he has cooked, they find their mental, emotional and physical imbalances magically get adjusted. Just by eating prasad cooked by Agastya Rishi. Imagine the quality of prasad, that and the kind of consciousness with which he cooks and the kind of variety of things that he cooks. And Agastya has a voracious appetite. He can eat any amount of food. Any amount of food. And then Sudikshna started telling stories of Agastya Rishi, one after another. So, when Sudikshna starts telling the story, he starts talking from the birth of Agastya. The very birth of Agastya itself is miraculous. Agastya was not born from a regular, mother's womb, but he and Vashishta, two of the greatest sages on earth, they were born in one clay pot together. All of you have heard of test tube babies? Doctors? But have you ever heard of two babies born in one test tube? First, and probably the last time that it ever happened, Agastya Rishi and Vashishta, both of them born in the same pot. You can imagine what a technology that is. Like inconceivable technology, right? And imagine which two people? Agastya and Vashishta. Vashishta is Ram's guru. And Agastya is here, Sutikshna's guru. And Sutikshna, when he tells this story, Ram is amazed. It's about his own guru also now. So it's more personal, Agastya is literally, twin of Vashishta in that sense, basically. And Sutikshna, he tells Lord Ram that the word Agastya, Aga means mountain, and Asti means to stop. So the word Agastya means someone who can subdue mountains. That's the kind of personality Agastya was. So, Agastya Rishi, he was one of the most powerful sages of his times. One day, as Agastya Rishi was traveling in the forest, he heard a very faint sound. It felt as if somebody was crying. So Agastya Rishi started walking towards the direction where he heard the crying sound coming. And he saw something that shocked him. He saw there were so many people hanging upside down. And all of them appeared to be dead. But yet they were crying. Agastya was shocked. He didn't understand what is going on. And all of them, so Agastya went and asked them, who are you and what exactly happened? So these people that were hanging, they tell that we are the Pitris. And we are ancestors of a particular person who has really troubled us. And Agastya Rishi asked them, please tell me, who is this person who has troubled you and how has he troubled you? And all of them tell, the person who troubled us is called Agastya. He himself. Agastya Rishi gets shocked. He said, when did I trouble anyone? He said, how did I trouble you? And these people that are hanging, they say, Agastya is supposed to be our descendant. He's born in our lineage. But because he has not got married and he has not given birth to a son, our lineage is not continuing. And we are suffering because our dynasty is broken. And that energy is stuck. We are not getting to go ahead in our journey. And all of us are so upset on Agastya. Agastya Rishi says, see, I am only Agastya. Please tell me, what can I do? The sages, all these ancestors, they tell Agastya, you please get married and have a son, then we will all get liberated. Agastya Rishi is saying, I am supposed to be a sage over here, I am supposed to be a brahmachari, supposed to be living a life of a sadhu, and you all are telling like this. The ancestors say, see, if you want to help us, you have to do this. And Agastya Rishi then decides that he'll get married. Now obviously the point is to marry somebody like Agastya, who is such a powerful person, there has to be some qualified girl also, right? So Agastya couldn't find any qualified girl in the universe, he created one with his own powers. I mean, this is like height of matchmaking, right? Imagine if a boy is trying to find the ideal girl or the girl is trying to find the perfect match, didn't find, I will only create one. So Agastya Rishi created the most beautiful girl ever created in the universe. He used all the most scenic things in nature and created a very, very beautiful girl. And he named her as Lopamudra. And after he created this beautiful girl, she was a little tiny girl, she was in his arms, he took her to a king of Vidarbha. And he told this king, so this king of Vidarbha did not have children. So Agastya Rishi gave this baby to the king of Vidarbha and told him, she will be your daughter. And very soon I'll come and I'll marry her. The king is so bewildered. First of all, who is this person come like this, having the baby in his hand, and he's giving, the baby, and he's saying, I'll come back and marry her. The king was super confused, but at least he was happy that he got a daughter, But the most amazing thing was, in 1 week, this daughter grew to full size. In 1 week, she became, an adult. And 1 week later, Agastya comes back and he says, the moment Agastya comes, Lopamudra herself says, I want to marry him only. If I don't marry him, I don't want to marry anybody else. So this king was the only person in the universe whose entire parenthood journey was only 1 week long. Imagine everything that a parent experiences from, cleaning potty all the way till marrying the daughter, all of that happened in 1 week. Least troublesome parenthood ever in history. He didn't get to experience the teenage tantrums. He didn't get to experience all the rebellion. He didn't get to experience all the problems. He didn't get to experience anything. 1 week, Lopamudra was married to Agastya and gone. After Lopamudra married Agastya and they came to the ashram of Agastya, Lopamudra saw the situation. It was a dilapidated ashram, right? Only Agastya was staying. Nothing literally. Agastya tells Lopamudra, see, I've married you because my ancestors, they need a descendant in this dynasty, so we need to have a child. Lopamudra said, see, marrying is the easy part. But next part is difficult. So she tells him very clearly, I will not marry you unless we have a lot of wealth. Now Agastya came to the reality of marriage. Till this point of time, he used all his magic powers and he created a girl. He got married to the perfect girl and all that. Now the reality of marriage began. How do I earn money? Never in his life he ever earned money. Agastya never needed money. And here the first thing Lopamudra comes and tells him is, I need a lot of money. And Agastya really began to think, where will I get money from? And Agastya Rishi at that point, he goes to a neighboring king. And he tells the king, see, I just got married. I need some money. But I don't want any money. After you run your kingdom, after you finish all your expenses, if there's any extra money left, please give me. Agastya has no idea only how to earn money also. So like this, he goes and tells the king. The king calls his accountant and he asks him, do we have any extra money left? Which accountant will ever say we have extra money left? The accountant said, no, see, books of accounts. Agastya doesn't even know how to read books of accounts, right? So, Agastya says, okay, fine, it's fine. You don't have extra money, let's go somewhere else. They both go to the next kingdom. And Agastya tells the same thing to the next king also. I got married, I need some money. After your expenses are over, if there is any extra money, can you give me? This king also says, no, I don't have any extra money. I'm using all the money for the welfare of the kingdom. Then they go to a third king. After the third king, again Agastya realizes this. All the three kings become very concerned about Agastya Rishi's marriage. And they all think together come up with a very interesting solution. They say there's one fellow who actually has a lot of extra money. In fact, all his money is extra only. Because he doesn't use anything for the welfare of the kingdom. Agastya Muni says, take me to that fellow. So then all the three kings take Agastya Rishi to a person named Ilvala and Vatapi. So Ilvala is a very powerful demon king. And Ilvala, he uses his mystic powers to loot all kinds of travelers and take away their money, and that way he has become a very rich person. So Ilval Vatapi, they are brothers. And both of them are very powerful Rakshasa brothers. So they have a very interesting way of tricking people to come and eat. So what they do is the way they have set up their system is on the highway. Just like this hotel is right on the highway, right? They have created a hotel right on the highway. And they know travelers will be hungry. So typically when a traveler comes, Ilval understands just by looking at the traveler if he has money or not. When he saw the three kings, he understood. Ilval understood this will have a lot of money. So he called all four of them, said, please come, we will feed you. A lot of good food. And I'm expert at cooking. And they didn't tell what they're going to cook. So all three came. They said, I'll just cook and come. Ilval goes inside and he tells his brother Vatapi, we have some guests. Vatapi chants a mantra and he transforms and becomes a goat. And Ilval cuts the goat, his own brother. He cuts him, chops him to pieces, and cooks him so finely that you can't even make out that it is goat meat. And he offers this to Agastya Rishi and the three kings. Now, the three kings, they know the story of Ilval Vatapi, how they operate. The three kings say, no, sorry, we are not hungry. Now we're having stomach upset, one said I'm doing fasting, and one said, I'm doing Ekadasi, something they said, all of them refused. Agastya said, get me, I'm very hungry. Agastya took all 4 plates and he ate it. He said, anything more is left? He said, yes, they got whatever was cooked, everything Agastya Rishi ate. After Agastya Rishi ate fully, this fellow Ilval, he shouts out, Vatapi, come out. Typically, when Vatapi goes inside a person's stomach, he tears open the stomach and comes out. So Vatapi had the mystical abilities to resurrect from after death. Tears open the belly of the person and comes out. When Ilval said like that, Agastya Rishi farted 3 times. Mahabharata actually says this. He farted 3 times. And Agastya Rishi tells Ilval, Vatapi jirno bhava. I have digested Vatapi. Ilval died. Of course, a lot of you might be asking, how did Agastya Rishi eat good meat? Relax. Agastya Rishi, Srila Prabhupada asked once, did Ram eat meat? You know what Prabhupada said? Prabhupada said, Ram is God, he can eat anything and get away with it. So essentially, the ability, see this whole idea of eating meat and not eating meat, that's an inconsequential thing. These personalities are of a different caliber. Karma doesn't affect them in the same way it affects all of us, right? And anyway, this guy was a demon. The goat that was there, a demon. And Vatapi also had the ability to resurrect also himself, right? So it's a very different story. So don't confuse it from our Krishnamata's point of view, or no meat eating and all that. That's not equivalent to discuss. After Ilval Vatapi were killed, Agastya Rishi goes back home. And he goes and calls Lopamudra outside the house. And he tells her, please come, I have something to show you. And he takes her from the house to the edge of a valley. On the cliff they see below. And Lopamudra sees the entire valley is filled with gold. Unlimited amount of gold. And after that, Agastya Rishi and Lopamudra, they decide to have a child. And Agastya Rishi gives Lopamudra an option. So he says, do you want 1,000 children? Or do you want 100 children? Each will have a power of 10 children. Or do you want 10 children? Each will have a power of 100% people. Or do you want one child who has the power of 1,000 people? Lopamudra said, better one moon than 1,000 stars. And that's how from Lopamudra and Agastya Rishi was born a very powerful son, who eventually became a great saint himself. So, Sutikshna is telling all these stories of Agastya to Lord Rama. One by one, not just one or two stories, there are so many stories of Agastya. Each story is better than the previous. There's one very interesting story of Agastya Rishi. When Lord Shiva got married, I'll tell this story and I'll stop. When Lord Shiva got married, Agastya Rishi, the marriage of Lord Shiva was such a universal event that practically thousands and thousands and millions of people went to attend the marriage of Lord Shiva and Parvati. I don't know how many of you know this. When Kumbh Mela happened this year, right? Yeah. When Kumbh Mela happened this year at the beginning, the number of people that attended Kumbh Mela was so many, literally
the earth tilted a little bit. There were some reports that said the earth, little bit there was a loss of balance. Because you can imagine what Shiva's marriage. What must have been the situation? If Kumbh Mela so many people came and the whole population shifted to one particular place, one city, millions literally. I mean, almost a particular section of the world population came to one particular city, right? So when Lord Shiva got married, practically the entire thing shifted towards the north. So Lord Shiva, you can discuss farting later, okay? I know what exactly they're talking about. So Lord Shiva, he saw that the entire planetary shift is happening. So he sent two sages to the south. He sent Vishravas and he sent Agastya. He sent them both to the south. And he said, both of you go to the south and restore balance. You know what confidence Lord Shiva had in Agastya? He sent two people. If he sent one whole horde of thousands of people, it makes sense. He only sent two people. And he said, go to the south and create a balance. And that's when Agastya Rishi started moving towards the south with Vishravas. Vishravas is the father of Rama, by the way. And these two sages came to the south. So when Agastya Rishi came to the south, he was traveling around with Lomudra. And at a particular point where they, so when Agastya Rishi left from north, he took along with him one Kamandalu. And he filled Ganga water in that Kamandalu. And he carried that Kamandalu with him, down to the south. That's the only thing that he brought along with him. So when they reached a particular place, all the demigods, they approached Agastya Rishi and they told Agastya Rishi that we have a very serious problem that we want you to help us with. And Agastya Rishi asked them what happened. And the demigods told Agastya Rishi that there's this mountain named Vindhya. And this Vindhya has become so proud that he is competing with you in height. So, the Vindhya mountains were rising in height. And he became so tall that it was stopping the sun from moving, literally. So the gods were having a serious problem with Vindhya. And Vindhya was just not listening to anybody. So the gods approached Agastya Rishi and they said, please, can you do something to Vindhya? Agastya Rishi said, fine, I'll take care of it. Agastya Rishi came, and Vindhya, when he saw Agastya Rishi, he bowed down to Agastya Rishi. Agastya Rishi was such a powerful personality. The Vindhya mountains felt, if I don't bow down, he might curse me and something will go wrong in my life. I might not grow. He went down to bow down in front of Agastya Rishi. Agastya Rishi said, I'm just going to the south, I'll come back. Just stay like this. And he went to the south, he never came back. Until today, Vindhya is still like that. If you actually see the Vindhya range of mountains, you'll find it's one of the flat mountain ranges, basically. This is because of Agastya Rishi. Agastya Rishi made the mountain bend. That's why he got the name Agastya, the one who bends mountains. Now, this mountain represents pride. And there are some people who are so proud that they don't like to bend in front of others. And they have this competitive mentality trying to prove I'm better than somebody else. So Meru is so tall, it's not his fault. The Himalayas are so tall, it's not their fault. That's the way God has made them. And they are made for a particular purpose. If Vindhya starts growing right in the middle of the country, what happens? The entire landmass will become ice. You will block the sun, literally. So the Himalayas are a particular place, and that place only is needed like that. But if a mountain comes right in the between, it just completely loses the balance. And that's why Agastya had to make him bend down. So the role of the spiritual master is sometimes to discipline the disciple. And when the spiritual master disciplines the disciple, it is not for the benefit of the spiritual master, it's for the benefit of the disciple only. So this whole story of the mountain bending, it's a very historic story in Agastya's life. But it's also a story that teaches us the importance of bending in front of the spiritual master. This idea of offering obeisances. It's something that is very unique to Vaishnava culture. Most cultures around the world, the concept of bending down in front of God is not existing. But in Vaishnava culture, we not only bend in front of God, but we went in front of any Vaishnava. So if you see any devotee, you offer obeisances. Why we bend is actually a subtle sign for our own nature and our own body. It's on a psychophysical nature. The more we bend, the more we become flexible also in our mindset, in our nature. And Agastya Rishi is teaching so many beautiful lessons. Lord Ram loved these stories that Sri Krishna is telling about Agastya Rishi. And Lord Ram wanted to hear more and more stories of Agastya Rishi. So before meeting Agastya, Ram is hearing so much about Agastya. And now his eagerness to meet Agastya is just increasing. So tomorrow morning when we have class, we're going to be discussing many more stories of Agastya Rishi, finally culminating with Lord Ram actually meeting Agastya Rishi. And the meeting of Lord Ram and Agastya Rishi is one of the historic points in the Ramayana, because that meeting that happens in Panchavati, it actually changes the direction of the entire Ramayana. Because Agastya Rishi gives Lord Ram some gifts, some things at that point in time, which actually help much later during the war. So we'll see that discussion and the more beautiful stories of Agastya Rishi tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. And I'll see you all tomorrow morning. So tomorrow we're going to have 2 classes. In fact, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, both the days, we're going to be having two classes, so that we have a lot of Aranyakant to cover. So I'm trying my best to hopefully cover the whole Aranyakant while we're here in Nasik. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
So let us thank